So nah, fuck it. Let's fucking go right into that. And today on the show, on the podcast, whatever the fuck you want to call this, I'm gonna just introduce this shit right now and I'll let you get into it. I have Rafael Flores. Do you go with the junior or is it just Rafael Flores? How do you want it?
I go with the junior as for my writer name, but you can just call me Rafael.
Okay.
Don't matter.
All right, cool. So we got Rafael Flores Jr., aka just Rafael. And this is gonna be a unique episode. If you're listening to this on Spotify, fucking Apple Podcast, or watching it on YouTube, wherever, or if you're on Patreon for the real hardcore fans, this is gonna be unique because Rafael finished his first comic. It's done. The Kickstarter is about to launch, or has it
Um,
launched already?
so the Kickstarter has already launched. We're in our about third week now, and we're already funded.
Okay.
So you don't got to worry about us not funding. We're going to fund. We're already funded.
There you fucking go. There you fucking go. So we're gonna get into this. And this is gonna be fucking dope because again, he just went from waking up one day to say, hey, I wanna write a comic. I wanna fucking create my own comic to now fully funded through Kickstarter. This shit is fucking badass. And yeah, we're gonna get into this. So Rafael, pleasure having you on, my dude. Talk to me. Tell me how did this freaking come to fruition?
Well, like everybody probably who's watching, I was a big comic book fan. Grew up reading comic books. Um, I even worked at a comic book store for a couple years while I was also working at a library. And my passion of comic books just never went away. I knew I wanted to write them. I just didn't really know how to, get started. I had a couple of false starts trying to get started in writing comic books. I was trying to work with artists, trying to figure out how to collaborate, how to build a universe. So I did a lot of like character designs and just kind of like story synopsises, and I was going to try pitching those, and I wasn't really getting any good
Wait,
feedback back. Yeah.
let's pause right there because you say you ran into like hiccups. Like, what are some of the challenges? Because most of the times when people, especially for myself, when I see someone who's like, yo, I just dropped a fucking comic book and it shit looks fire, I don't see any of the problems. It just seems like it was smooth sailing for everyone. So what are some of the situations that you ran into that kind of got you deterred from writing your first couple of projects?
So yeah, the first time around, I kind of wanted to do these big stories that were probably like 12 issues, long and longer even. They're really long stories, and I didn't have enough. I wasn't there yet, ready yet to commit to that kind of long of a story. Because if you're going to commit to a
Okay.
12 issue series, especially when you're like just starting out doing indies, it can take you years to get that done. And so you want to start kind of small. And I kept hearing that. I kept ignoring that advice. I just wanted to do my big ideas,
Yeah.
But I heard the advice to start small. I decided to do it just a 2-page short comic book. And that was after, these false starts of, doing these character designs, kind of working with artists, but then figuring out that the artist wasn't the right fit for the book after a while. You kind of run into that a lot of times where you're working with an artist and sometimes it just isn't working. And for
It's
whatever
like a
reason,
fucking bad marriage, man. It's like you get
yeah,
married and you're like, oh, I'm fucking excited. And then fucking 2, 3, 4, 5 years down, you're like, how the fuck did I end up with this person?
exactly. And like you might be really stoked on their art at first, or they may be telling you that they're really stoked on your story or whatever. But for whatever reasons, it might just not work out. It could be money constraints. It could be just personality doesn't fit well. And so when I met Azriel, and I kind of decided I wanted to just start small. I wanted to focus on my brand, which is Camazotz Comics, and I wanted to just start small. I made it a challenge for myself to kind of just do a 2-page comic book with a splash page on the last page, and that was kind of the
Okay.
challenge to myself. And so I did that, and that was the first, the Return of Camazotz, the short comic that went on to be a negative space finalist in a contest. And I got a lot of attention from it. That's what Daniel saw, and that's how he picked me up to do the Return of Camazotz as a series. And so that's where I'm at right
Okay.
now.
All right, cool. And for everybody that's listening, we're talking about Daniel. Daniel's actually the first person that I officially interviewed on my podcast. He was with Concrete Comics. He is the creator of Andy Starboy and Tanakh God of Fire. But he branched off and now he is starting his own indie comic book publishing company that is surrounded by horror. He's
Yeah,
a big horror fan, and I'm going to assume that you're a big horror fan as well. So just
yeah,
catching everybody up to speed.
yeah. And so, he was developing this new publisher, and I kind of already knew his work from Concrete, and we had been in touch to for him to edit some of my stuff, and like some of the stuff that I was having issues with. And we did a short comic, Mother Wolf and Cubs, and that was also a Negative Space finalist. And so we kind of worked well together. So he asked me after we did the Mother Wolf and Cubs, he asked me to do the Return of Camazotz as a series. And so that just began the work of developing it. We started off. He asked me to do an outline first. An outline is just like a page summary of the of what the comic was going to be. We had like a kind of a page limit that we were trying to aim for because like again we couldn't do a 12 issue series. We just weren't there yet, And this is my first
Okay.
comic book, so I knew I wanted it to be kind of small, almost self-contained. And so
That's actually smart as fuck. That's
yeah,
smart as fuck because we have the microwave mentality of the generation that we're in right now.
yeah,
Sometimes I get projects that are like loaded up with a lot of pages, and it's like even for myself, it's like fucking intimidating because it's like, yo, I got mad shit that I gotta do. But then when somebody gives me like a crisp, concise, couple page project, when the artwork is fire, it's like, all right, cool. I'm gonna commit to reading this because I could read it in a couple of minutes or whatever it is.
exactly. And like I think everybody wants to do like their Walking Dead and like tell a series that's gonna go on forever and ever. But
Fuck yeah.
realistically, when you're starting out, you just can't do that. It would be too long and too hard and too much money investment, especially when you're the writer, being the main producer of the comic. So,
Now, can I
um,
ask you a question?
yeah,
Do you think that there is a pun intended art form where you can take your idea and make it into a concise couple of pages, but also have the end goal in mind, if obviously the finance is there, to have a big expanding universe? Do you feel like somebody who can create shit like that could basically fucking write their own ticket?
yeah, and that's exactly what the goal you want to do, and that's exactly what we did. So we have that small self-contained story, which is kind of the Return of Kamzat's. It's 3 issues long. After that, we're gonna put it in a graphic novel, and then and I'm expecting that we're gonna get a lot of people wanting more after this, and so we've already got ideas for what's gonna come next. But we hope and we wanted to make at least the first part of this story, self-contained, and had an ending that was kind of finite, just in case we couldn't finish it or we can't go on. We wanted to have a good ending.
Okay. Shit, me from me reading it, it's like, yo, I fucking want more. It's like you
We
got
want people to
all the
want more,
fucking
so that's the goal too.
yeah, you got like the concise elements of two people fucking around in a fucking ancient temple and then all shit going to hitting the fan like
Mhm.
afterwards. Like in my mind, I'm always thinking about the fucking people, the archaeologists, whoever it is, that go to fucking like Egyptian temples or Aztec or Mayan temples or wherever it is, and they're just fucking around with shit. And it's like, yo, you
Yeah.
guys aren't afraid to get cursed, like, or at least step on a booby trap and lose a fucking leg. Like, yo, come on, man.
Hey man, these things really do have curses, man. Like, you think all those artifacts that they took, from every culture around the world, those things have curses, man. You shouldn't be messing with that
Yeah,
stuff.
I feel like that.
So
I feel like that's where the fucking British Empire started to fall off. As soon as they started
yeah,
fucking around with Egypt, that's when everybody started revolting and they started losing everything. Yo, shout out to the U.S. for fucking kicking Great Britain's ass. But
yeah.
anyway, but yeah, man, that's fucking dope. So all right, cool. So we accomplished. We got our fucking Kickstarter funded. What was that like? Have you ever ran a Kickstarter before, or are you feeding off of the knowledge of Daniel?
This was me completely feeding off the knowledge of Daniel. And that
All
was the
right.
whole, like, whenever he came to me and asked me to do a series, I was like, yes, thank God. This is what I've been waiting my whole life for, because I've been trying to get into comic books. I've been sending out pitches to publishers and stuff, never getting anything back, never even getting so much as just like, hey, you're doing a good job. Keep up the good work. I got a couple of those, but Daniel was the first one to really push me, really have my back, really, read every single page that I was producing. Because, I have a lot of, when you're a writer, you have a lot of self-confidence issues, or maybe you don't believe in your work as much as you should. I think everybody, deals
Yeah.
with that. So I think having an editor to kind of tell you that no, what you're writing is good, and don't worry about it because we're gonna polish this after we're done. We're gonna make this look really good. So that was what I needed. That was what Daniel provided, and that's what Grimcore provided. And so yeah, man, like he's been there, to basically guide this whole project from day one, and that includes the Kickstarter. He's basically him and Mason, the graphic designer. They built the whole Kickstarter themselves, and we just kind of did the artwork. We did the story. So it was really
That's
cool because
fire.
I didn't
Yeah,
have
no,
to
no,
worry
keep
that much
going, keep
about.
going. What'd you say?
I said it was cool because I didn't really have to worry that much about it. I was able to kind of just relax and not worry that much about it. I have to do these podcasts, which are fun, and they were at first they were stressful, but like I'm starting to get the hang of it too.
Hmm.
But it's all right. I enjoy it too.
Yeah, you got to be excited. You got to promote your shit, obviously. I mean, the best way to do it is obviously social media. But then, second way is like, all right, cool. How do we figure out who the person is that actually read it? So it all
Yeah,
has to deal with the branding of yourself. And, that's one thing that I understood in the beginning. It's like, yo, if I want to sell anything, people are going to be sold out to me more than my project, especially if they don't know me. So I was like, yo, let me just start fucking branding myself or whatever that means for me
yeah,
specifically. But yeah, I get it. And it's smart and it's fortunate that you have somebody with experience to kind of help you along. I find that a lot of people don't really have that. You could call it mentor or guidance or whatever it is that is literally helping you along. And obviously, your success is tied together because Daniel's trying to build up his publishing company. And it's like, yo, you got to have fucking successful titles. So it's dope that you're fully funded in 3 weeks, man. That's incredible.
yeah, and
Cool,
yeah, and
cool.
Daniel's a big help. He's been a big help through the whole process. It couldn't have
There
happened
we
without
go.
him.
There we go. Where are you getting your inspiration from? What got you into horror? What made you want to take that route other than like the typical like superhero route?
Well, I think sorry. So I guess it started with the mythology, the Camazotz and Aztec. It was not Aztec, it's Mayan mythology. And that I really like learning about Mayan and Aztec mythology. Both of them. They share a lot of similarities. A lot of gods are similar, or even the same.
What's the
They just have
difference
different
between the
names.
two?
What's that?
What's the difference between the two?
I mean, there is a lot of similarities, a lot of synchronicities, like in other religions you see, where there's like they share gods that are very much similar, and they stand for the same thing, but they just have a different name. Or
Okay.
they kind of took in other tribes' gods, and then gave them a new name or kept the same name. Kamazatz is one of those gods that was taken in from I think Zapotec uh, religion into Mayan religion. So he's a really old god. He's a very ancient god, and I like learning about that stuff. There was this one book, Dark Heart of Sky, no, Feathered Serpent, Dark Heart of Sky, written by David Bowles. Um, you should totally read that if you're into like Aztec and Mayan mythology because it kind of combines both of them into like this
Okay.
like chronological order of the beginning of mankind or the beginning of creation, basically, to where we are now and what age we are now. And it has really cool stories about Kamazotz and about the Mayan hero twins in it. And I kind of wanted to take that part, the Kamazotz and the Mayan hero twins, to kind of go through this kind of it's this very interesting thing that where each of the Mayan hero twins, they're kind of being forced. They're like it's a reincarnate. It's like an avatar thing where you're reincarnated. Each age is reincarnated again, or their basically their father has twins, and then they have twins, and then they have twins, and they always go through this journey of going into Miklan or going into Shibalba, the underworld, and encountering the gods of the underworld. And
Okay.
there's different stories and stuff, and I kind of wanted to make this new age story of the Mayan hero twins in our modern world, and going into a temple and encountering Camazotz, and then what happens next. That's what the story's about. But it all came from that, really, just learning about the mythology. I do love horror movies. I'm a big horror movie fan, especially things like werewolf movies, Dracula, monster movies. I'm a big American Werewolf in London was a huge inspiration for this book.
Okay.
So yeah, just horror movies in general. Yeah,
I can fucking see it from the cover. The cover looks like one of those, what, maybe like 1950s or 60s. I don't know what era, but it looks like those horror movie eras where it's like the Swamp Thing or the fucking Space Invaders from Mars type of shit. That immediately when I see that, I'm like, all right, cool. Like this shit looks fucking dope.
yeah. Thanks, man.
Yeah, I could get into a whole fucking like rabbit hole. I was literally like before this, as I was setting up, I was watching a YouTube video on the basically why the humans are on Earth and how the moon is actually like a satellite device that's supposed to capture souls for this alien race. And like I could go down a whole fucking rabbit hole. And it talks about some of the ancient gods and
Mm,
all of these different religions, so like Egypt or the Sumerians or the Aramaic, like all of this shit, and how they basically all talked about these space gods and
yeah.
how the moon wasn't even there when they were talking. I don't know, just a whole bunch of shit. I could go into a whole fucking
Hey,
rabbit
man,
hole.
me too, man. Like our ancestors, man, they knew a lot more than what we know today, and their understanding of the world was a lot different. But like, I love that we're able to kind of go back and try to piece out what they knew and try to relate it to our world today. I love doing that.
Yes.
I love that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah, it's one of those things, and it's crazy how aliens, gods, hell, demons, like all of this shit can kind of like be combined together, and that's one of like the story that I'm writing kind of like feeds into that a little bit. I won't get too much detail. I know I talk about this shit on almost every single episode, but it's crazy how all of those things combine together. Like now
yeah,
I'm hearing a theory, and I just heard it through one of the UFO congressional hearings, that one of the theories is that aliens put us here on Earth to basically harvest our souls. And that when we go through different emotions, that kind of feeds them. And one of the most powerful emotions is anger and violence, which is why the alien race basically positions themselves here and then makes humans basically super violent. Another theory is that humans, or our version of humans, was originally with these seven basically species in space, but because humans were so violent, they basically kicked us out of their galactic empire, put us
mm,
here on Earth, and then we basically either dominated the Neanderthals and all of the other humanoid races that were here, or like bred with them, whatever you want to call it. And that's why we're here and we're so violent. And
yeah.
it's just very
There's
interesting,
something
all of
to
this
that.
shit.
There's a lot to that because I think people know when they hear bullshit, but people know when they hear the truth. And when you
Yeah.
say stuff like that, you kind of bring a lot of that rings true. There's a reason why we have a lot of war gods in all different cultures. There's a reason why they worship the planets and the stars. So there's a lot of connections there, I think, and I don't think you're far off from what might actually be going on. So
Yeah, man. It's like, yo, I could, like I said, I could fucking go in on these fucking topics, man. It's fucking interesting and it's cool. And it's
me too.
cool
I like
that,
that stuff.
people can take parts of that shit, but then
Mm,
put it in different forms of art. So I'm sure a lot of the media that we consume today has some aspects from old religions, which old religions, the way we interpret it now, from space or from the gods or from heavens or whatever it is. And it's super cool. Like one of my favorite movies is Prometheus,
Yeah.
which is like an extension from Alien, and they basically show the engineers basically came to Earth and swallowed their fucking goo, and then the DNA broke down, but then it combined it together to basically create life on Earth. So then Earthlings basically want to fucking go and find these engineers because we see, or this specific science team sees them as this is the gods of our world,
Hmm.
and it turns out they're fucking very
Yeah.
malicious, but it's whatever.
Yeah, you don't want to go visit them.
But
They don't want you.
yeah, man. Yeah, that's the type of shit that I like, man. I like those type of horror movies where they combine space, but doing it in like a creative way, if that makes sense. Like I'm not all like, and don't get me wrong, I do like the movies that are super gory, but I like the ones that like kind of like mix like Star Trek and Star Wars with like horror.
Mhm.
Like
Like
those are my
cosmic
shit.
horror, it almost gives you like this cosmic dread of how small we insignificant we are, like that kind of
Fuck
feeling,
yeah. Fuck yeah. You ever watch not Robot Chicken? What the fuck is that shit? That shit on Netflix. I can't remember the name. It's basically
But,
like
oh,
what'd you say?
Netflix. Oh, nothing. I was thinking of Cartoon Network. My bad.
Yeah. Robot Chicken's from Cartoon Network, but no, it's something to that effect. It's basically a whole bunch like artists come up with like their own storyline, and every episode is different. It's different art
Was
style,
it that
different story, or
robot one?
whatever. Yes, it's
Love, Sex, and
fuck, what's
Robots or
the
something
name?
like that?
I can't remember the name of it.
I think it was Love, Sex, and Robots. But
Some shit like that. Yeah, some shit
yeah,
like that. And there was this one episode where this crew of this guy was going through space, and basically he went to like he found this space station that was like, I don't know, but long story short, he was like found this girl who I guess was like his girlfriend or some shit like that. And then like, he had sex with her and shit. And then he woke up the next morning and it was like replaying it. And he was like, wait, what the fuck? And he started to realize it. But then at the end of the story, you see that his crew was actually attacked by this fucking being that basically attaches itself to your mind and makes you play the same shit over and over and over again while it basically like feeds on you. And I'm like, yo, that shit is fucking creepy as
uh,
hell.
that might have been a Black Mirror. Is that Black Mirror?
No, it's not Black Mirror, but it's kind of like the same concept. It's just animated. I don't know why I can't remember. I think it's like Love,
I have to
Death, and
find that.
Robots, some shit like
Okay,
that.
yeah, that's what it is. I'll have to check that one out.
That might
There's a
be
lot of
that
episodes.
actually might be that might
I
be the
missed that
fucking name.
one.
Hold on, I need to look this shit up now. And while I look this up, one
Mhm.
thing, yes, it is Love, Death, and Robots. That's what it is on Netflix. One of the things that I liked about your project, because whenever I read shit, I always want to see if I can relate it to some higher form of media that I read. And I felt like when
Yeah.
I was reading it, it reminded me of like an American Horror Story season, if that
Okay.
makes sense. I don't know if you've watched American Horror Story.
I have. I love that series, so I don't. That compliment. That's good. That's a compliment for me. So I don't mind
Yeah, that's what it reminded me of. And whatever you think about like the later seasons, but like the earlier seasons, like season 1, 2, and 3, I
that.
felt like
Mhm.
when I was reading this, I was like, oh, this seems pretty creative. I
And
like
what?
the aspect of the two brothers, and it's very like somber in the beginning. I like that they have motive to go, and I like I said, I'm trying to like explain it without giving out details, but I like the motive where they went to this place to kind of like resolve tension, but they're brothers and both of them are handling it differently. And
Yeah.
then that's where like we meet the situation that they go into. Like obviously you see the fucking bat on the cover of it, but it's like shit, man. Like this would be a fucking solid ass fucking live action.
Hey, man. Like I don't. I wrote it for as to be a comic book, but I definitely also wrote it, to hopefully one day be a movie. Um,
That's
but
dope.
like I want. I love that you said that it was kind of like American Horror Story because it's also things like Twilight Zone, Tales from the Crypts, those kind of like anthology horror stuff. I'm a big fan of that kind of stuff. So I do like to have that getting started like right away, kind of like you're thrust into a story that's already going on. You kind of learn about what the characters are, about, and then
Fucking crazy.
throw even more at them. Just keep throwing like shit at them. Constantly throwing twists and horror and monsters, and and even more twists and revelations. That's how you write, man.
Bro,
That's just so good.
I was I promise you, I wish I could turn my fucking Xbox on and go to the party chat. We were literally talking about Tales from the Crypt, Goosebumps, Are You Afraid of the Dark? First of all, Tales from the Crypt or of the Crypt, whatever, that was the
Mhm.
creepiest fucking show ever. I remember
Yeah,
when I was fucking younger, if I was going through the channels and I saw the fucking Crypt Keeper on the channel, I'm turning it immediately. That shit freaked me the fuck out when I was fucking younger, bro.
yeah, man. It had all the sex and nudity in it, so you knew you weren't supposed to be watching it.
Fuck no. Fuck no. I was not watching that shit. That shit was fucking like I would watch where the Crypt Keeper was on, but then like
Yeah.
when the actual, I guess, mini episode or whatever would come on, I'm like, nah, fuck this. I'm not watching this. But at the same time, I liked Are You Afraid of the Dark and Goosebumps. I felt like
Yeah.
they were a little bit more my speed, especially obviously me being at that age. But
Mhm.
I feel like I should revisit Tales from the Crypt. But that shit
Yeah,
still
it's a
freaks
good
me the
marathon
fuck.
show, especially the first season. It's pretty good. I would say the first two, 3 seasons are really good. And you can just look up a list of top 10 and then just watch those, and you'll get basically everything. Because there's a lot of
Yeah.
stinkers in there too. So
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. On all of those shows, there's definitely episodes that are like super trash. I
yeah,
mean, even with Goosebumps, if I could, like, there was a Goosebumps episode, the one where the dad was a plant. Like, if you watch
Mhm.
that shit now, you're like, all right, this is corny as fuck. But then there was an episode where like these kids were at camp, and then at the end, it was like, all right, cool, you guys are training to, I don't know, do some shit. And then it points to the earth, and you see the earth in the sky. And the whole time you're like, wait, these motherfuckers aren't even earthlings? Yo, this is crazy.
Yeah, I
Um,
love how they would always end with that. Like, it was never a
yeah,
happy ending. It was like, oh my god, this is like terrible. Like the kid's still missing. This kid's dead or something.
very,
Like, there was
very
never like a
fucked
good
up.
ending.
Yeah, there was an episode where, what's that? I think it might have been like the first episode or some shit where the fucking they family moves into like this house, and all of the fucking neighbors are just like these fucking ghosts that
Yeah.
want to just like eat them, but it doesn't make any sense because it was like, yo, you guys could have just ate them in like the first 2 minutes of the episode, but for some reason they kind of like drag it, and then the family
Mhm.
ends up like leaving afterwards, and then the dog basically becomes one of them at the end, and you're like, oh, these people are fucked. But it's like
Yeah.
shit like that, man. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Whenever you tell good horror stories, you don't want to have that happy ending where, oh, they all made it out, or the last survivor made it. You want to have that ending that leaves people with like, fuck, like that was a
Yeah,
terrifying movie.
yeah. What's your favorite? I don't know if you said this already, but what's your favorite horror movie?
I'll say the movie that inspired this book was American Werewolf from London. And it is one of my favorite horror movies. I grew up watching that. I probably first watched when I was like 6 or 7. And that transformation scene. And I just love this movie. I can talk about it all day long. But the transformation scene
I,
is one of
I've
the
never
greatest moments I love.
I've never watched it. I never watched. I think like the oldest shit that I've watched between like werewolves, vampires, and all that shit was like Nosferatu, and that shit's fucking
Yeah,
that shit's creepy as
I'm a big old school movie fan. I like the Universal monsters, like Dracula and Werewolf.
fuck.
Um,
Okay.
the thing about American Werewolf from London that I really like is the comedy. Like people don't really appreciate the comedy in that movie. If you watch it, you gotta really kind of like listen to the jokes, and it's okay to laugh at them. It's okay to laugh at a horror movie. Like I think some people don't laugh at horror movies because it's a horror movie, they think they can't laugh, or they think they can't, or there can't be jokes in it. But I love horror
Mm,
movies where there's like comedy to kind of like ease the tension, and then after that quick laugh, it's like bam, another scary thing, like. So I love that. So
yeah, I feel
American
like
Werewolf does that great.
Freddy Krueger definitely had some shit where it's like you would laugh and then you would be like, all right, this motherfucker is
Yeah,
creepy as fuck. Same
And
thing
that's
with
a
Chuck.
classic,
Chucky,
man.
you
Chucky
definitely
is the
laugh.
best. Yes, I love
Yeah,
Chucky,
that's
man.
that's just funny. Black people call it Chucky, even though it's fucking, I don't know.
Child's Play.
Child play, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But I don't. Black people always do that. Like I've always heard my black friends when I was younger say, "Yo, you watch Chucky or whatever," and then it wasn't until like I had my white friends like, "Oh, you want to watch Child's Play?" And I'm like, "What the fuck is that?" It's
yeah.
like, "Oh, this movie with this doll." I was like, "Oh, you mean Chucky?" It's like, "No, the movie is called Child's Play." And you're like, "Oh shit, I didn't even know that."
I think it's interesting because they did kind of like start putting Chucky in the titles after a certain point, like the Bride of Chucky and what all the other Chucky called the Chucky or whatever. I don't know. So now they I think they caught on to that and they're like people just know it as Chucky, so we're gonna call it Chucky.
Because Child's Play isn't scary. But
Yeah,
if you know the fucking enemy, it's like, all right, cool. It's like Chucky. It's like we get it now. A Nightmare on Elm Street is more scarier of a title than Freddy Krueger.
yeah, that's true.
Halloween, I mean, Halloween is like the poster movie for Michael Myers. Michael Myers sounds like somebody who works at the desk next to me at my fucking job. Like that doesn't seem scary. But when you attach it to Halloween and now you know the history of Michael Myers, now
Yeah,
he's fucking scary. You
yeah,
know, same thing. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is fucking scary as fuck. I guess
yeah,
Leatherface, like that shit could be fucking scary too.
yeah.
But
We made a
Texas
good title.
Chainsaw Massacre sounds way scarier.
Yeah, I love Texas Chainsaw Massacre too. That was another early movie I saw. I don't know. Did you also watch scary movies as a kid? Like, did your cousins try to force you to watch scary movies?
No, my history on so yes, that most definitely and fucking traumatized the fuck out of me. I was never into horror movies or scary shit or anything like that, but my grandmother was. My mom stays
Really?
far away from scary movies. My dad not really like into it. I don't think he was like scared of it. He just watched sports, drink beer, and maybe would
Mhm.
like he would definitely watch action movies. But my grandmother, she loved the type of movies that you love. So I remember when I'd be at my grandmother's house, she'd be watching Twilight Zone, all of these old black and white horror movies. And my mom always told me that my grandmother loved it. So then as I got older, then I started to getting to it a little bit more. And I remember when I was younger, like my uncle made us watch Jeepers Creepers. I was afraid to go in the basement for my entire life. Anything under fucking ground, I was fucking afraid. Then I remember when the Ring, like, wait, let me backtrack. Let me go to the Blair Witch Project. When that shit came out, when I was in like fourth grade, fifth grade, first of all, we all thought that shit was real. If you didn't
Yeah,
think that shit was real, you're fucking lying. There was no
yeah,
internet back then, or it was like very minimal internet. That
yeah.
shit was fucking scary as fuck. The Ring scared the shit out of me when I was in fucking junior high school, but it wasn't until maybe high school where I started to get into horror movies and started to look at it in a different way. And now I like
Mhm.
horror movies. I don't watch everything, but like if a good horror movie comes out, like I love The Conjuring 1 and 2. I love that universe. Not all of the movies are like great, but I love that universe. That's like my go-tos when it comes to horror movies.
Yeah, speaking of grandmas, my grandma was the exact opposite. She hated horror movies, and she would actually like get mad at like all her my cousins and me while we were watching like Texas Chainsaw Massacre or whatever. She'd be like, "This is the devil's film" or something like that. She would always say stuff like that, and I think that made us like it even more because we were like
I
we
yep,
want to like do things our grandma doesn't want us to do. So,
I
but
could see
yeah.
that. I
My
could
my
see that.
family's
Yeah,
big into horror movies. Like my sister and her husband are even bigger like horror movie fanatics than I am. So
yeah. There's something about like the thrill of running away from something or being afraid of something that's chasing you or you don't understand it or just like weird shit like um even when I was in high school, or I remember not even high school, junior high school. I remember I had a girlfriend and like everybody was like chilling at her house for Halloween, and we were just watching horror movies. And I think Halloween was like on like a Saturday, so we were just watching it from like morning until whenever. And that's when I literally went through Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, Friday the 13th in like one shot. and I was like, oh, these movies aren't, maybe because I was like older and I like experienced life and shit that was way more scarier than horror movies,
Hmm.
like losing your virginity, whatever. But yeah, fucking yeah, like Jason, like I could understand the hype around fucking Jason in the Friday the 13th. Very fucking good movie. I could understand the hype around fucking Michael Myers, even though it's like, yo, I'm black, I could outrun Michael Myers so quickly, so that made it less fear for me. Freddy Krueger is like, you ain't running from him.
Yeah,
You know, yeah, unless like you don't go to sleep. But I love the aspect of the mind games that Freddy plays. So like when people would basically, all right, all we got to do is not go to sleep, and
yeah.
then you don't
Then
see
they'll
them
start.
fall asleep, but then they're in a dream. Like
Yeah,
I love that fucking aspect. That shit is so fucking cool.
yeah. That's Wes Craven, man. Wes Craven's a genius when it comes to horror. Um,
Yeah, man, that shit's fire. Shit's fire. Um,
Speaking of horror, like and directors, like a lot of directors get started in horror. A lot of writers get started in horror, and then they end up branching out into other things. And I think that's because horror is it's just a very forgiving genre. You can basically tell whatever kind of story you want. There's no handlebar, like there's no thing stopping you from doing whatever you want. You can be as like despicable, as terrifying, as horrible as a person you want to be when you're telling the story, because it's a horror movie.
yeah,
That's what they expect. So.
and that's fucking James Wan, man. I fucking hate him, bro. James Wan made some of the greatest horror
Yeah,
franchises of all time. Saw, Insidious, and The Conjuring. He doesn't fucking direct fucking horror movies anymore. He's fucking doing Aquaman. Like, yo, go
I
back to
know.
fucking horror, bro. Because now
Yeah,
all these franchises, like, it's either hit or miss with them because he's not fucking directing them.
yeah. There's that puppet movie he did. I wish he would do more of those. I think it was puppet.
What puppet movie?
Let me see if I can find it. Or I don't remember.
Oh
I think
yes, the one where the puppet looks like the fucking yes, I know what you're talking about.
it wasn't
The
the
one
other.
where
There's
the
two
puppet's
different
like
puppet
this on the
series,
fucking, what'd you
but
say?
there's two different puppet horror series, and I get them mixed up. But he did one that was something I forgot what it was called, but that was one that's
Okay.
really good.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen the images of it, but I don't think I've seen it. And then I know he didn't direct this, but I guess his company or him produced that Megan movie. So
Hmm.
perfect example of a horror movie with comedy. That is exactly what that Megan movie is. I,
Yeah.
I don't think it's a good movie. I think it's a really great concept.
Hmm.
It's just very very fucking creepy.
Yeah, I wouldn't even. I call it more of like a sci. I guess it is a sci-fi horror movie, but it leans
Yeah,
heavy sci-fi and more in like into like a good concept, like what might happen, because we're in that age right now where we have this AI and all these people pushing technology to the limit now, and then we're all just like, dude, chill, like we just want to go back to the old days.
yeah. So
But,
do you think that there is a horror side to AI, or do you think that there's a benefit to AI?
I think there's only horror.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm the exact opposite. I feel like human beings are the fucking horror, and I feel like AI could do a lot of things to fucking eliminate that.
I don't really know. It depends on how you use AI. I think whenever AI gets to the point where it's replacing humans in any way, that's whenever I don't like it, and that's when I'm just like cut it out. I don't want it at all.
Where could where could it replace humans? Like obviously there's shit
Art,
like
writing, yeah,
art and writing.
yeah.
I mean, I just feel like, all right, cool, this will be written or created by AI, but then the shit that's created by human is going to be that much more valuable. So in turns, it's going to make what me and you do
Mm.
even more valuable. It's the same thing like gold or like diamonds. It's like, yeah,
That's one of
you could get a manufactured diamond and you could get fake gold, but when you dig and you find the real gold, that shit is fucking worth something.
But what about like the AI just gonna keep constantly getting better and better until the AI is as good as whatever other people can do? I don't know. I don't like how quickly it can advance, how quickly and also what it can do to take over. Like different
But
companies, different things. So
why do we assume that it's gonna take over? Why? Is it
because
because human beings
humans
do
are,
that shit and we
yes,
always like to project ourselves on fucking aliens and AI and fucking primates? Like we always like to project what humans do. Maybe
you're right.
humans are the fucked up ones and we need shit like this to kind of simmer us the fuck down.
You're right. It is going to be the humans that drive the AI that's going to destroy civilization or whatever. But if we didn't have that AI to begin with, I think it would be a lot harder, you know. But it is what it is.
Yeah, I'm always thinking of shit like yo, if everybody's car had AI, there'd be way less fucking
Oh
accidents,
yeah, that'd be
way
cool. That
less
would be
human
cool.
error. I could go out to the fucking bar and get hammered, hop in my fucking Tesla or fucking Jetson's fucking vehicle, say, yo, take me home and just fucking pass the fuck out, wake up in my garage afterwards.
Man, I remember in eighth grade learning about that technology and getting so excited, being thinking like, oh great, I don't have to get a driver's license. Like by the time I get out of high school, like we're gonna already have all this. And then 20 years, 10 years later, it's like I still haven't really figured it out yet. So I'm like, okay, I guess
Yeah.
they're never going to. So.
Did you see that video of the girl who basically like she learned how to drive in a Tesla, like girl, and then they put her in a real car? She's like, yo, I don't know what the fuck to do. Like,
Really,
how do you fucking like it's like the creepiest,
that's
weirdest thing
dangerous.
ever. It's so fucking weird, but it's like, yo, that is like a snapshot or a glimpse on what we're gonna see in the fucking future, where it's like, yo, you hand like if I hand one of my kids a fucking analog telephone, they're gonna be like, what the fuck is this? Like,
Yeah,
there's no
that's
screen to
crazy.
it. It's yeah, man, so fucking weird, so
Yeah,
fucking
it's like the
weird.
world we live in doesn't exist anymore. It's like 'cause everything's been replaced by new technology, and it's like,
Yeah,
yeah, it's just strange.
yeah. I mean, yo, another good sci-fi movie that isn't a horror movie but you could definitely make a horror version out of it is the Matrix. If you think
Yeah,
about the Matrix, very fucking terrifying,
yeah,
especially the first one.
that's a good
Fucking
idea. Someone
creepy.
should make that into a kind of a horror idea and
I
run with
mean,
that.
I'm sure they have. They just came out with The Creator, which isn't a horror movie, but it's very like early like Matrix story. But yeah, the
I
fact
think it
that
has AI
humans,
like as the villain or whatever.
yeah, everybody wants to make AI the fucking villain. I mean,
They're hiding
when
the
you
humans. They don't want people to reveal the humans as the real evil.
because it's going to get to a point where it's like, all right, cool, AI is going to be smart enough to be like, all right, cool, we could just leave this planet and we can go anywhere we want, so it's like
Yeah,
there's no
they
point
just
to
ditch
killing
us.
humans. I mean, um yeah, yeah, it's funny how like humans always want to go towards, and obviously I understand it for entertainment wise because that shit makes sense, but like we just take everything and we want to turn it into something that's fucking crazy, like the
Yeah.
for instance, I just watched the fucking Nun 2, which is a fucking great fucking movie, way better than the first one. But it's like, yo, you just took like a religious aspect and it just fucking turned it horror. So it's like all of the safety that we have in religion and faith is basically like, nah, fuck this, horror is gonna be in here as well.
Yeah,
And it's just interesting how humans want to just like imprint that.
yeah. The Exorcist, man, that's a great one that I grew up watching. I remember my dad put that on when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Like, it just shows you like what kind of family I grew up with. But I came out okay. I
That's
think
crazy. My
I
uncle,
don't think horror movies is for kids. I don't think kids watching horror movies turns kids into bad people. You know what I mean? Like, I don't believe that. But
nah, yeah, not at all. I just think, I feel like people's upbringing turns people into fucking bad people.
yeah,
It's not necessary. Like it could be a part of it, but it's like, yo, if you're in a loving home and you accidentally watch The Exorcist, you're not gonna fucking turn into a fucking demon
yeah,
child or a fucking serial killer or anything like that. But if you got all of the combinations between your parents treated you this way, school treated you this way, and you were basically tortured, maybe not physically but mentally, then yeah, something's gonna fucking crack in you, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. I had an argument with one of my friends on the difference between like a serial killer and just like regular murderers, and he is an avid horror movie like stan. Like he watches everything. He has fucking like horror movie posters everywhere. And I'm like, yo, you're the one person that need, like, you should be telling me what a serial killer is. It's like your
Yeah.
favorite fucking movie is fucking Halloween. Like you love Michael Myers, but you're arguing me on the definition of a serial killer. It's so fucking weird.
What was the argument
So
pertaining? Like,
So basically, he was basically saying that anybody who kills people in a massive number should be labeled as a serial killer. So, like, if you're in a gang and you kill 3 or more people, you're a serial killer. If you're
okay.
in the mafia or if you're in the military and you kill a bunch of people, you're a serial killer. And I'm trying to explain with him, I was like, yo, that's not the definition as far as the court. I was like, serial killers kill people for no reason. And yes, they'll have a specific characteristics on the type of people that they killed or a specific pattern that like
Mhm.
detectives or psychologists can discover. But if
Mhm.
I'm in the military and I'm, killing people, that is because it's my job. I'm
Yeah.
doing it to protect or stop
Same thing
this
with the
evil
mafia.
entity. Exactly. If I'm a drug dealer and I'm killing other drug dealers, I have motive. It's because I don't want them selling drugs on my turf, or maybe they'll kill me, or whatever it is. And he's just
Mhm.
not understanding it. And I'm like, bro, I'm like Richard Ramirez, fucking Jeffrey Dahmer, fucking all of these people. If people have massive numbers of killings, and you ask yourself, what the fuck? Why did they do that? This person is crazy. They're
Yeah.
probably a serial killer.
Yeah, and I think also if you're hiding it, that's also a big thing. Like drug dealers and the mafia and the military, they don't really worry about hiding that they've killed people. Where serial
Um,
killers, they have to hide it because they're doing it repeatedly, and it's almost like a impulse for them where they have to do it. And
yeah.
where yeah, I don't know. That's I get it. Like
Yeah,
I
I
think of
would.
serial killer as like a terminology or something, specific terminology.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that a drug dealer wouldn't hide it because obviously, like
Yeah.
we know cartels and like they all hide their killings, but like they're killing for a specific reason, which is territory, or you stole money from me, or there's reasons on why. Like there's reasons why a drug dealer. Now you could be a drug dealer or a gang member or in the military, and if you're killing innocent people
Yeah,
while
you're
like
also a
then
serial killer. Yeah.
yeah. So you're a serial killer, and you're whatever you are, um, shit like that. Like I watch Narcos, and I'm like one of fucking Pablo Escobar's hitmen. I can't remember his fucking name. I was
Hmm.
like, yo, this dude could be borderline like serial killer, but the fact that he's killing like he's ordered to kill them, and it's like a fucking gray area.
Yeah, maybe if he's taking some pleasure from it, it's getting into the serial killer vibe.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't want to understand these people. I've never
Right, I don't
killed
either, man.
anyone. I didn't plan
But I
on
do like
it.
watching the
Like,
documentaries.
yeah, yeah. I just want to keep life simple, but I'm nerdy. I just want to play video games, do this shit, like talk with other nerds and shit like that, and just raise my family, and that's it. Have a nice little nerdy, boring life. I don't want to experience any form of self defense or any shit like that.
Yeah, man. I'll make
So
sure to. We got to do some sage work or something to cleanse our house after this because we
yeah,
don't want no
right.
serial killer coming in
Burn, burn some sage or some fucking
here.
marijuana to get some good fucking vibes in the house, right?
Yeah.
Um, how do you feel? How do you feel about like Ghost and shit like that?
See. The reason why I think that a lot of Latinos like horror movies is because I think a lot of Latinos have experience with ghosts and like supernatural like things. I think we all have those stories of encountering something that we didn't really understand, or we thought it was a ghost, or maybe we even saw a ghost. I think I don't not believe in it. I do believe in it. So, I don't. Whenever people tell me about it, I tend to believe them.
Have you had any fucking experiences?
I've had a lot of weird ones. Like I had there's sometimes where it'll be like a almost like a flash, like come at you for like a split second. You'll see like a figure, like either an outline of a shadow or something, and then it'll just immediately vanish. I've had that experience a couple times where, there was specifically when I was like going into a new apartment, and apparently someone had died here. This apartment right here,
Okay.
and and I remember like one of the early first couple days I would come into my apartment, I had that like almost like a spirit seemed like just flash by me, and I've had other things where it's like my dog died, and I have this like skeleton dog over here, like a little Halloween toy, but it's like a big kind of toy. And I have that, and I almost use it as like in honor of my dog that died. And every once in a while, that thing will freaking turn on, and it's off. Like the switch is off, and it'll start
Yeah.
howling and stuff. And so I don't know what it is, but I believe it's something, you know.
I know what it is. You got to get rid of that fucking toy. That's what it is. Like, I got fucking kids. Anytime there's a toy that like goes off and on in the middle of the night or out of nowhere, in the garbage, I'm throwing it in the fucking dumpster. Getting out of my house. I don't want anything that could potentially be any sort of fucking creepy shit in my house. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's where I go with that. And the reason why I asked that fucking question, because in your story, obviously one of the brothers has like a vision, and obviously it's like a ghost of someone,
Hmm.
and I find it interesting, and this kind of ties in with like my conspiracy theory that I was talking about before, where it's like, you know in horror, when there's ghost involved, it's like people experience this shit, and it's like, is it like an imprint of something that just happened, or is there like another dimension that's like connecting or like bleeding with ours and we can see it, or maybe it has to deal with time, maybe it's just like something that's repetitive, and timelines are just like super close with each other, and sometimes we see things that happened in the past and we just
Hmm.
claim it to be ghosts. And I always find that shit interesting, because ghosts are like the one thing in horror that is very, very supernatural. Not to say that werewolves and like giant bats aren't, but
Hmm.
those are like physical, tangible objects that like you could fight off. Whereas like a ghost, sometimes like you can't.
Yeah, and like I think in my story, my idea of having a ghost, like he's a ghost, kind of, is I also like the idea whenever a person sees a ghost, but other people don't see it, and so the other people think he's crazy. So I added that too. You know, that's a nice element that I think a lot of people can relate to, and um, and then I think I wanted to add that to my story too. Have that little bit of like almost people don't really believe in him, or maybe they do, maybe they don't believe him, but maybe they just kind of like, you know, like, all right, you're seeing shit because you just went through this whole crazy experience, you know.
Yeah,
So maybe that's what people think, um, but to the person who's seeing the ghost, it's very much real. It very much is happening in front of their eyes. And so whenever it's happening to them, it's important to make it look as real as possible,
mm,
at least to them while they're watching it, while they're looking at it. And then whenever someone else comes in, you can make the ghost go away, you know.
yeah. I got a friend who's a ghost hunter. Um, and with like this shit, like whether it's on like YouTube or like a TV show, I feel like 98% of the shit that you see is staged, but there is
Yeah.
like that small percentage where it's like unexplained, or it could be real or shit like that. So I'm never going to discredit somebody's like personal experience. I'm not going to jump at it again and say, oh, this shit is all bullshit, it doesn't exist. It's like, no, I do believe that a lot of people stage it for entertainment purposes and money and shit like that. But
Yeah.
so like I have my friend, we worked at a travel agency together. And like, I had no idea, like we were just talking about shit, and she was just like, "Oh, I'm a paranormal investigator." And I'm like, "What?" And she was like, "Yeah, I do it for like fun." And she's part of like this organization back in Long Island. And I'm like, "Get the fuck out of here." I'm like, "Really?" And she's like the most like sweetest girl. Like, don't lie, like she doesn't steal like anything. And she was like, "Yeah, I got like some cool like footage that like we just like they investigated a school or some shit." And she showed me a video of this classroom because they were investigating it. and the camera is just still. It's nobody's in the classroom, and you see like this light orb go across the room, and there's like a, those old partitions that like you see in movies where it's like an accordion, and then you spread it out, and then you can't see shit on the other side.
Yeah.
Like people would have it in their house to like change and shit like that, but they just had it in the classroom, I guess, maybe to like put kids in timeout or some shit, whatever.
Okay.
But this orb like goes across the room, and it's like, I think it's like blinking or whatever, but it goes across the room, disappears. Then the partition just falls, and that sold me. I was like, all right, this
Yeah.
shit is real, because I never seen some shit like that ever in my fucking life. I was like, that was fucking nuts. And then she showed me some other cool shit, but like I believed her because she's not looking for monetary gain. Like she doesn't have a YouTube channel or shit like that. She just genuinely likes creepy ass shit, and she was like, I
Mhm.
want to be a paranormal investigator. And I was like, yo, that's fucking creepy as fuck.
Yeah, it's cool, man. And I believe it, dude. I think it's real. I love watching those shows where they ghost hunt. There's a lot of them are staged, I think, and the ones that I really like are the ones where they like caught on camera, where they have like they're explaining what their camera caught or what their door camera caught, and it's like you're like, whoa, that really is scary. Like, who could explain that kind of stuff? That one's always interesting to me. I like those.
You got to give them credit, because even if they are staging it, a lot of these shows they're going into places that are fucking creepy as fuck. Like to go
Yeah,
into a old jail fucking building from like the 1800s and being locked in there and just being pitch black. That in itself is fucking scary. Fuck about meeting ghosts. Just being there is fucking creepy as fuck. So I give them
yeah,
bonus points for that. Like that shit's entertaining as fuck.
yeah.
Yeah. Man, you horror guys, man. You guys I'm not fully into I'm not fully into, but like fully like absorbed by the horror scene. I like everything. But like the people who are just like committed to horror, I gotta give it to you guys, man. I don't know how the fuck you guys like
I like
sleep.
everything though, but I like everything though. I can dig with almost any genre of movies, and but horror. I think the great thing about horror, and it's very misunderstood, and it's not like people will they don't ever get the acknowledgement that they need. That I think horror movies deserve, because you can really tell really interesting stories with horror. You can even tell things that are even more real and more interesting than what a normal drama could tell. Because sometimes these
Yeah,
dramas are just very romanticized life
yeah,
of whatever. But with horror, you can really get down to the nitty gritty and the darkness of the mind, and also the things that we think we see, around the world. So,
yeah. I would say one of my favorite combos is a romance drama that's horror. So you ever watch Crimson Peak?
yeah, I love that one. That's a good has a good vibe to it. I love that movie.
That is a fucking sleeper right there. Yeah, and I'll end the podcast on this. If anybody on this fucking podcast is taking a girl out on a date, or you're trying to woo her, and you want like something good for a date night, get you some fucking pizza, some fucking popcorn, maybe some fucking Kool-Aid or some fucking Sprite soda, whatever you want. Turn on Crimson Peak, because that is a good fucking love story slash horror movie. That's a fucking good movie right there. Good
Yeah,
fucking date night.
if you're trying to impress that goth girl, put on that movie. She might stab you at the end of it, but it was
The
worth it.
goth girl is gonna she's gonna drop her pants after that movie. She's gonna be like, "This is what you like? Oh my god, I'm gonna fucking." Never mind. I'm not gonna go into details, but yeah, she is going to be down. Just letting you know, we are hooking you up right here. But awesome, Rafael. I really, really fucking appreciate you hopping on my podcast, man. I love what you guys got going on. I love your fucking story. I can't wait for the rest of the world to fucking see it. Before you cut out of here, plug your project and also plug anything else that you guys have going on. And then yeah, we'll cut out of here.
All right. My name is Rafael. We have a book called The Return of Camazotz out on Kickstarter right now. It is completely funded, but you can go support it still. We got a lot of covers a lot of great covers by the artist Azriel. We also have a special Chrome cover by TMNT versus Street Fighter artist Ariel Medel. He did our special variant cover, and it's all done by Grimmcore Studios. It's a new horror publisher. Daniel Grimm is former editor in chief of Concrete Comics. This is his new project. This is his new baby. Grimmcore Studios. We're coming hard with the horror, and we're gonna impress a lot of people, and we're excited to finally be giving this out to everybody. We're live on Kickstarter right now. Go support it. You can find me at Camazotz Comics, and you can find Grimmcore at Grimmcore Studios all over social media.
There we fucking go. There we fucking go, man. Grimmcore Studios, Rafael, fire ass project. That cover, A fucking one, by the way. I gotta say it again. The cover is fucking A1. But yeah, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're fucking watching and listening to. We're getting out of here and then we're gonna hop on Patreon. So make sure that you sub the channel, comment your favorite horror movie or any shit. And then yeah, we'll see you guys later. Deuces.